Welcome to tonight's Live Fully, Live Well webinar, Fatigue-Related Challenges with Juliann Hanson-Zlatev, Program Consultant for CAN-Do MS. My name is Maureen Martin, Director of Programs at CAN-Do MS. Live Fully, Live Well is a wellness program for people with MS and their support partners. Managing your health and wellness is an integral part of living well with MS. Live Fully, Live Well is a comprehensive program from CAN-Do MS and the National MS Society designed for people with MS and their support partners. Live Fully, Live Well covers topics affecting the whole family living with MS in order to strengthen relationships, increase understanding, and promote improved health and quality of life for the person with MS and their support partner. This program helps people living with MS and their support partners move from education to action. There are 3 aspects to this program: 6 one-day in-person programs around the country, 7 web-based videos introducing wellness topics, and 14 webinars covering those 7 topics, which is what you're participating in tonight. All 3 areas of this program can be integrated together or enjoyed separately to provide you with the resources, knowledge, and tools to create a personalized wellness plan. This program is made possible by MS Active Source, which is sponsored by Biogen IDEC and Elan Pharmaceuticals. As I mentioned before, Live Fully, Live Well is a collaborative program between CAN-Do MS and the National MS Society. The vision of the National MS Society is a world free of MS. The society helps people affected by MS by funding cutting-edge research, driving change through advocacy, facilitating professional education, and providing programs and services that help people with MS and their families move their lives forward. CAN-Do Multiple Sclerosis is an innovative provider of lifestyle empowerment programs for people with MS and their support partners. We are the start of a whole new way of thinking about and living with MS. CAN-Do MS empowers people to move beyond their MS by giving them the knowledge, skills, tools, and confidence to adopt healthy lifestyle behaviors, actively co-manage their disease, and live their best lives. So just a few housekeeping items before we get started. Juliann will address questions at the end of the presentation, and we encourage questions and comments throughout the presentation. To ask a question, you type your question in the chat feature, which is located on the left side of your computer screen. So to submit a question, you type in the small box that says chat. Also, many of you submitted questions when you registered, and Juliann will address those in her presentation tonight. And this presentation is being recorded and will be archived on CAN-Do MS's website. You can view the presentation again or check out the other Live Fully, Live Well archived webinars. And for those of you who are attending live tonight, you will receive an email tomorrow with copies of this PowerPoint presentation. So we have a great speaker lined up for tonight. Juliann Hanson-Zlatev has been an occupational therapist for 18 years. Over the past 15 years, she's specialized in neurological and neurodegenerative diagnoses with an emphasis on stroke recovery, multiple sclerosis, and Parkinson's disease symptom management, and Huntington's disease. Her special interest is restoring quality of movement while maximizing independence and wellness in daily activities. This has led her to study myofascial release as a unique and holistic treatment option for many individuals. Juliann has worked with the Rocky Mountain MS Center for many years as a consultant for their rehabilitation clinic and for CAN-Do MS for 5 years. Juliann currently owns a private practice in Castle Rock, Colorado, and enjoys working with individuals to achieve movement and balance in their daily lives. So before we start tonight's presentation, let's just do a quick survey to get a feel for who is on the webinar with us tonight. So I just put a survey up on this screen, so please tell us about yourself. Are you a person living with MS? Are you a support partner? Are you a healthcare professional or other? So we'll give everyone just a couple seconds to go ahead and submit their answers. All right, so about 96% is a person with MS, a little over 11% a support partner, and a little over 1% for both a healthcare professional and other. So that's a great group tonight. And with that, I will turn it over to Juliann.
Thank you very much, Maureen. Well, good evening, everyone. And I'm glad that you have joined me for a conversation about fatigue-related challenges. As an occupational therapist, over the years, I've worked with many people who have MS who have been struggling with the issue of fatigue. And really, it is a frustrating and complex type of beast. And as such, it requires a variety of approaches to manage it. So tonight I really want to talk about fatigue in a holistic way. There's so many different ways to approach it that I want to talk about sort of a general framework where you can insert tools and techniques to your best advantage to be able to deal with fatigue. I did read most of the questions that came in, and they're all very, very good, and I will do my best to answer many of them. Others, you may best find answers on other forums and when you check in with the National Multiple Sclerosis Society and maybe through some of the other webinars that we have as well. So again, feel free to submit your questions at the end of the presentation. And I'm going to try to find my, okay, very good. So the first thing I want to talk about is that there are different varieties of fatigue. There's normal fatigue, which is when we work hard or we put in a long day, we're tired. We can usually push through this kind of fatigue, and usually a good night's rest will be enough to make yourself feel better again. There's fatigue that comes from deconditioning, and that's quite simply the fatigue that comes when you aren't physically conditioned for the activity that you're doing. So for example, if you were to take up a running program, you would be more tired at the beginning of the program than you would be toward the end when your body is more conditioned for that activity. There is fatigue that comes from mental exertion. And that's fatigue that comes when processing what is being said to you, or thinking quickly, or feeling muddled. That's a mental fatigue. There's fatigue from physical overexertion, and that's quite simply when we overdo it. And we have sore muscles and aching muscles, and it's just we've overdone it. And again, a good night's rest or some stretching is usually sufficient to help you get over that. There's stress-related fatigue. There's the fatigue that we feel when we've been anxious or worried. We've been holding our bodies and muscles in a tense way, and that's tiring. There is fatigue that comes from depression, and really that is a neurochemically driven fatigue, and it's very important to address that type of fatigue. That fatigue usually comes out, it's very difficult to initiate or get something started, and so that's why it's very important to talk with your doctor or other healthcare professional about that. There is fatigue that we get from the common cold and the flu that I'm sure we're all familiar with. And last but certainly not least is something we call lassitude, or primary MS-related fatigue. And lassitude is unique to MS. And I've heard it described a variety of ways over the years, but I feel like a wet noodle, or I've completely run out of gas. I'm unable to do anything after I hit this fatigue, or I've hit the wall. Or in the YouTube video, someone very, very eloquently put it as she felt like a vacuum cleaner and she got too far from the wall and the plug got pulled out and that was it. And generally people use the word overwhelming when they describe it. The cause of lassitude is really up for debate. There's more and more research coming out about it. But basically we think that it's because your body is working so much harder to send messages down through the nervous system. And myelin is supposed to be a superconductor. So when the nerve is demyelinated, the body has to work harder to send the message. And the result, as you are familiar with, is severe and debilitating fatigue. So at any point in time during the day, you may be juggling all those different types of fatigues or different varieties and types of that fatigue. So you don't really just have lassitude, you also have the other kinds of fatigue. So you can see how it's just critically important that you can take action and limit the effects of fatigue so that you can, and you'll have to pardon my live fully and live well reference, but so that you can do that and be happy and reach your goals. So really, now begins what I call applying all of this. And I start with apply the rule of simple. When we go to change something or look at something in a new light or gain some new knowledge or information, making sure that you, in order to apply it to your life, is that you keep it as simple as possible will make it easier to transition those new changes into your life. So thinking about this and saying, what is this, maybe picking one or two things that you may glean from tonight and applying those one or two things at a time might be useful. So what I want you to know is that multiple little adjustments really matter by the end of your day. And when I say that, if there's one thing that you take away from this webinar, it's that these little tiny adjustments added up all together can really help a lot. And that's something that we call pacing, and I'll be chatting on and on quite a bit about pacing. But that really does make a big difference. So another thing to think about is allowing ourselves to drain stress and tension and things that you can't control periodically throughout the day. And the reason I think that that's important is that as we go through the day, we accumulate activities and chores and worries and concerns, and our body hangs on to them. And it's kind of like walking around with a gallon of milk all day. You're just holding on to all this, and it's really nice to be able to just put it down and let go. So if in some of the restoration breaks that we'll be talking about, if you can just let out a big deep breath and drain, sort of metaphorically, the tension out of your body, that can make a difference. And draining the stress and tension is a mix of mental and physical adjustments that we can do. So one of the ways to do that is to listen to your body. And you can begin by listening to your body. It really has quite a bit to tell us. And most people will say to me when I say this, well, I do listen to my body. I mean, when I'm really tired, I have to sit down, or I have to lay down, or, yeah, I listen. But our body really has more to say, and if we tune into it more frequently, we can adjust and make those adjustments so that they're more meaningful and they have a bigger bang for us. But, one of the things our body doesn't do is it doesn't talk to us using English. It uses the body of the language, like aching and stiffness and pain and discomfort, to really get our attention. So I recommend that you take initially 3 to 5 minutes in time each day and to be quiet and listen to what your body is really telling you. Over time, it won't take 3 to 5 minutes to do it. You can do a quick scan of your body adequately in 30 seconds. But what you want to do is tune in, and when I say to be quiet, I really do mean that. It's best to really be quiet and tune into your body and not have the radio on in the background. Don't be driving. Don't be doing that when you're having a conversation with somebody else, or even when you're watching television. To really truly focus in, you want it to be very quiet. So what are you finding? Do you find that you feel relaxed or content? Is something tingling or tired or tight or aching in the usual place? Are you hungry or thirsty? How is your mood? Are you angry or happy? Are you feeling impatient? Once you kind of identify all those things, you want to then engage. So you can sit down or lie down and engage those body parts that are talking to you. And I have a little example for us to try, if you will indulge me and do this with me while you're sitting at home or work. Allow your spine to soften in the front and in the back of it. Think of your spine in a 3D way. And allow it to open up. So think of the discs in your spine as being like marshmallows, and they're poofing up. And you just sort of naturally grow taller. Then you want to allow the back of your neck and the front of your throat to soften and just sort of naturally elongate. Sort of let tension drain out of there. And then you want to allow your arms and your legs and your tummy to soften and stop holding tension. And sometimes you're sitting there trying to do that and you're like, nothing's happening. You might want to squeeze your arms and your legs and your tummy and then let go to feel the change and the softening. So I'm hopeful that you are feeling that. And you can feel that you do hold tension just sitting. So the next step in that process is to empower yourself. So you've engaged yourself. Now empower yourself. You want to address your mood. Quickly evaluate why you are feeling the way you are, and then take action for it. So let's say you listen to your body and your body was tired and achy. It might be time at that point to take a short to medium rest break. And let me say that typically when I say rest break to people, they think I mean something like half an hour or an hour's worth of nap or something like that. And it can mean those things if it's timely, but it doesn't have to mean those things. Sometimes a break is something to the order of 1 minute to 2 minutes. Or it can be a small mental break where you do some visualization or some meditation. So a break can look a lot of different ways. If you're relaxed and happy, great. It's time to move forward and go for it and achieve your goals for the moment. If you're impatient and tired, check in with why you're feeling impatient, and while you're resting, it might be time to plan and address how you're going to deal with what you're impatient about. Are you angry and stiff? Those two usually accompany one another. Use a relaxation and technique and plan ahead. How am I going to get out of this situation? If you're sitting, let's say for instance, you're sitting in traffic and you're late and you're angry about that, you can say to yourself, well, traffic is traffic and I'll get there when I get there, and use deep breathing or meditation or thinking about something pleasurable to help your body relax and drain the tension. And if you're thirsty and hungry, we often overlook that we may need to hydrate and fuel more often. Being dehydrated or undernourished can lead to fatigue that we're fighting in addition to the other types. So this is the time to start the process. And using this webinar, I would encourage you to take this moment and really open yourself for something new and different. This is really your chance to reassess and implement new strategies and look at the old strategies that you might have been using and see if they're helpful for you. Some of you may already be using some very good strategies, and you will find that out in this webinar. And then you might find some new ones to add into your toolbox. Others you might go, well, you know what, that's really not working for me. And so it's time to throw it out. I would encourage you to decide upon a global, holistic approach to managing fatigue. Fatigue has so many different reasons and causes, and everyone here and listening tonight is so different that it takes a variety of approaches, and it takes a variety of different ways of looking at it and tools to use, from everything from nutrition and exercise to organization, and we'll talk about that in a minute. So it's a multiple tool approach. And the other thing I really want you to take to heart is this process is unique to you. Everyone listening tonight is different from the other person. Everyone has different responsibilities and tasks and interests and things that drive them and motivate them. And so what works for one person may not work very well for another person. And very frequently when I sit down and counsel with people about this, they'll say, well, so-and-so told me about this one technique, and it's really the best thing since sliced bread, but I tried it and it doesn't work for me. So it may not. So be sure that you make this process as unique as you are. So tools for our toolbox. Well, there's organization, planning, and management, which we will go into in detail. Exercise is a great tool. We talked about fatigue from deconditioning. And if your aerobic conditioning is better, if your legs and arms and torso are stronger, then you will have a better way of getting yourself through the day, and you will experience less fatigue. So with exercise, it's important to learn how much to exercise and how much not. it's actually very surprising that only a moderate amount of exercise really is the best that you can do. And in order to know about that more, I would encourage you to look up an exercise physiologist who is familiar with MS, or if you get a chance to go to one of the 4-day Can-Do programs, they discuss that in detail. And it's really very eye-opening how a little bit actually goes a long way. Temperature management is a big deal in managing fatigue. Being able to stay cool is really imperative. I've heard people talk about how they just literally melt when they get too hot. So utilizing tools such as cooling vests, or using a sprayer or a fan, or having a wet handkerchief that you can put around your neck, or a hat, all of those things are really important. And the thing I have to say about that that's most important, I think, is really be sure to advocate for yourself. If you need to set up close to a window or away from a window, or have a fan at your desk, or leave the air conditioning system on for longer than anybody else in the house wants, advocate for yourself because it's really important. Coping strategies are important in our ability to manage fatigue. If we are getting wound up too tight, or over anxious, or really allowing anxiety to be a big part of our life, that is a really hard energy drain. And so using really good coping strategies is important. And then probably any occupational therapist's favorite topic would be restoration periods, and that is rest. And those, again, as I had mentioned before, can be a variety of different ways, and we're going to talk about that in detail in a bit. So other following tools would be body techniques, where you use relaxation or meditation, yoga, stretching activities. Those are all useful in managing fatigue. Mental techniques like visualization, deep breathing, and any stress reduction techniques. Using organization, using planners and phones and calendars are important to help you with prioritization. A neat and organized space in your home and office keeps you from draining energy away by looking for something or hunting for something. And who of us has come home and put our keys down and then had to search the house high and low to find our keys, and what an energy drain that can be. So take the time to identify the things that you really need to organize is a good thing to do. I suppose most people have heard about ergonomics. It's lifting and carrying techniques. It's how you use your body to perform the task that you do. So how high counter heights are to you, the distance that you use your body from your task space or from the object that you're working with, all of those things matter. And then durable medical equipment. Pardon me. Durable medical equipment is things like shower seats, reachers, adapted cutlery and cooking utensils, canes, walkers, and chairs. And all of those things are designed to be tools that are helpful. Most of the time when we introduce them, we're asking someone if not so much that an activity is hard, even though that will make an activity easier. It's really to reduce the amount of energy that you're using doing that particular activity. And one of our archived webinars, the last webinar before mine, Mandy talked about mobilization, and she talks in depth about canes and walkers and chairs. So if you didn't catch that, I would encourage you to hit that archived webinar. So here we are, really at the beginning of the process. This is the time to evaluate your strengths and your weaknesses, because every one of us has them. So where do you excel? Where are you doing a really good job with fatigue management? Chances are really good that you are doing something very well. And where do you need some help? So this is a good time to take stock of where you are and what you're doing right and maybe what you need help in. And I want you to think of this as a process, like creating artwork. You'll be building in layers your knowledge and applying these skills and finding out what works and what doesn't. So for the purpose of the webinar tonight, I chose somebody that I amalgamated from a bunch of people that I know, and I gave this person some strengths and weaknesses. And this individual knows how to organize very well. They're good at it. They like to exercise. They're social. They have a lot of interests. And they have a standard for themselves. They like themselves and their house to look a certain way, neat and clean and very organized. But the weaknesses of this individual are that they really don't delegate responsibility or authority very well. They really know that they can do it best. When they exercise hard. This person is hard on themselves when they don't measure up to their own standards or goals. And they find it hard to prioritize. Everything is important. Very often I've sat down with people to work on prioritization, and I say, okay, prioritize your day. And they give everything the utmost importance. And I'm already tired. How many of us actually do that? And then this person also crams their schedule completely full. So this is a time to use your strengths and supplement your weaknesses. Use your organizational skills fully. There may be a couple of places that you can fill in, like using a family calendar or syncing your calendar with your spouse, or communicating with your boss and your coworkers more fully your plans so that people aren't just barging in on you. Probably a big part of where people need to improve their organizational skills is in the communication of what their plans are for the day. So the person we talked about before, that person would need to adapt their exercise routine. So instead of exercising very hard and feeling like only by exercising hard did they get their aerobic exercise in, learning how to exercise moderately would be helpful, and then they're not as tired. This person needed to add restorative breaks to their schedule all throughout the day, so kind of peppered through the day. And this person needs to learn how to delegate or prioritize so not everything is a priority, and then to give away some of the tasks that they have. This person would benefit from learning to listen to their body and learning how to pace. And part of that is learning to be flexible with themselves and with their schedule. So that brings me to the 3 Ps. And this is my favorite tool. I personally use it. It's called pacing, prioritizing, and positioning. And I want to talk about pacing first because, quite frankly, it is the hardest skill. It requires patience and time to cultivate it, so be gentle with yourself with pacing. Pacing is done most successfully when you use it flexibly, and we'll talk about that in detail. This flexibility takes the form of both mental and physical flexibility. And pacing requires that you plan ahead on an hourly, daily, weekly, and monthly basis. And it also requires frequent evaluation and reevaluation of how you're doing and what's important. So the best concept, I think, to start out with pacing is the marathon. Most people who undertake a marathon really want to have the energy to finish it. And so in order to do that, you insert those aforementioned restoration breaks throughout the day. And I have a story to tell you to illustrate that. When 15 or so years ago, when my husband and I got married, we decided that we wanted to take on running a marathon. And so we did, and we ran our first marathon, and we were very pleased to have run it in 4 hours and 7 minutes. And we liked the experience well enough that we decided we wanted to do it again. So we signed up for a second. And of course we were very interested in maybe not being out there quite as long and improving our time. And so we went to a workshop the day before the second marathon. And the person who was giving the workshop said, if you want to improve your time and you're not an elite runner, which of course we weren't, then you need to walk for 1 minute of every mile up until mile 18. And then after mile 18, don't bother because you've just exhausted all your resources and you're really pretty much going on grit alone. but walk 1 minute for every mile up until mile 18. And we said, well, that seems pretty straightforward. That's pretty simple. We can do that. So we did it. But the actual doing was much more difficult than we ever anticipated. And the reason was that we were in a race, and we had a long time to be out in this race, and we really didn't want to be walking in the middle of this race. And then there was a competitive factor. Here we were walking, and these people that we had just passed are passing us just effortlessly, and here we are, we're in a race. But we stuck with it. And at the end of the race, we had shaved 25 minutes off of our time. And we weren't, most importantly, we weren't nearly as tired at the end of this marathon as we were the first one. And the second course was much harder. And so it was an aha moment for me to learn that when you pace yourself, when you insert restoration breaks, when you allow the muscles that are doing the hard work to have a few minutes of rest, it really adds up at the end of whatever it is you're doing, whether it's the day or your task. So giving the muscles that are doing the major work, when you're sitting, give them a break. If you're standing, give those muscles a break. Restoration breaks can be mental and or physical. And these restoration breaks allow you to de-stress, build energy, build calm. And in the middle of those restoration breaks, you can reevaluate how you're doing. You might take a break, say around 10 o'clock in the morning for 5 minutes. And you, at that point in time, are saying, well, how do I feel? I'm listening to my body. Well, I'm tired. And I don't have a whole lot of energy left. And I have 6 more things planned that I really think are important to do today. So this is the time to reevaluate. Do I need to do those 6 more things? Can I delegate one of those things? Can I move something off of today? Do I need to rest for longer than I am right now? The other thing that's important to think about is aiming for a consistent energy requirement every day. Extreme ups and downs confuse our body and leave our body without any real knowledge of what we need from day to day. And the reason I say that is when I sit down and counsel with people one-on-one, many people will show me what they're already doing, and they are cramming Monday and Tuesday and sometimes Wednesday just as full as possible because that's when they have better energy, and they cram their whole day full, and they get through it as fast as they can, and then either Wednesday, Thursday, or Thursday and Friday, they're in a wet noodle and they can do nothing. Or sometimes people look like they cram Monday full, and then they rest on Tuesday, and then they cram Wednesday full because they have all this to do, and then they have to rest on Thursday. And many times by the time Saturday and Sunday and the weekend rolls around, they don't have the energy to spend with their family and friends as the way that they want it. So the idea behind that is to give yourself a general amount of activity that is about the same every day. Now, of course, there's always going to be exceptions. There are going to be days when you really have to cram the day full. So the idea behind that is instead of doing nothing the following day, you would do some things, but you would also plan in more rest or restoration breaks. You wouldn't plan as hard of a day, but you want to be able to ask your body to do something so that your body begins to get a more consistent energy requirement out of it. Pacing is best done when it's performed hand-in-hand with prioritization, and that is the key to flexibility. It's a key to flexibility for ourselves, for our schedule, and for the chores that we have to do. So I did a kind of a quick and simple little pacing schedule, and you'll get this tomorrow. And so I'm not going to look at go into it in super depth. And of course, the unpaced schedule looks much better, doesn't it? I mean, it looks easier, but that's actually not the case. So the idea behind that is the unpaced schedule. This person essentially gets up, and I just picked some activities, ad hoc. But this person gets up and goes at it, just hammer and tongs, pretty much all day long. And the only time they start having any downtime is around 8 or 9 o'clock at night. So let's jump over to the PACE schedule and take a look at that. And I had this person get up a little earlier so that they had some time to listen to their body, to meditate, to look at their schedule and to plan ahead, and to see if it needed any tweaking. And then as you can see, throughout the day, I added restoration breaks. And for this person, I chose like anywhere from 5 to 10 minute restoration breaks. And the thing that I want you to notice is that toward the end of the day, I put the suggestion up that if there was a delegation possible, to pursue that. And at that point in time, it was helpful maybe to put in exercise time or time for that person to work on themselves individually. And at the end of the day, I put in things like, I'm trying to highlight that here. Okay, there you go. At the end of the day, I put in more free time where someone can do what they want with that time. They can fill it any way that they want. So that was really kind of the highlights of that schedule. So in pacing, you want to aim to change your position about every 30 to 45 minutes. And I heard this put another way as a young occupational therapist, and the old axiom was rest before you get tired. And I thought, man, that's a great thing. How do you do that? How do you know before? Don't you have to wait until you're tired to know that you're tired? So that one always sort of befuddled me. So this is one of the tools to kind of get into that one. Aim to change your position within 30 to 45 minutes on the hour. So if you're standing, sit down. If you're sitting, stand up. Shake out your limbs, take a deep breath, move your body around, and that is the marathon principle. Allow the muscles that are doing the work the chance to rest. If you're keyboarding, stop keyboarding. If you're reading, stop reading. Just change it up. I recommend taking a mental break for 1 minute of every hour. So you just stop what you're doing, take a deep breath, and just reset the old mental clock. And that helps to shed off, any tensions or things that are building up for you. If you need to, drop the lowest priority item that you have. Find yourself feeling anxious or stressed? It's time for a restoration break. Well, I just took one. I took one 5 minutes ago. Well, maybe it's time to take another one. Maybe this time you need to use a meditation or deep breathing or a different kind of technique to really answer the question that is causing you to feel anxious or stressed. Think about what it is that you can do about it. Very often we are told that we don't breathe appropriately. We don't breathe down deep into our diaphragm. So avail yourself of deep breathing. Oxygenate your whole body. If we're not oxygenating our body, we probably are going to feel tired. So that's a part and piece of that. Sprinkle your day with low priority tasks. And don't rush. I think everyone probably is familiar with how tiring it is to rush yourselves, to really push yourself fast. And to end up on pacing, I want to give you some trivia food for thought. Your rate of speed is really important. Walking fast takes 1.5 times the energy that a steady rhythmic pace does. Walking downstairs takes 2 times as much energy as a steady rhythmic pace. And walking upstairs requires 7 times as much energy as a steady rhythmic pace. So for one, if your laundry is downstairs and you're running up and down the stairs, think about how much energy that is taking out of you that will result in fatigue. And moving smoothly and as smoothly as possible will also save little packets of energy for you through the whole day. So now we come to prioritization. Priority is a state of having importance or urgency. We think of priority mail. It needs to be urgently or quickly delivered because it's important. And in many ways, I encourage people to have a system to determine the level of priority, whether that's A, B, and C, or 1, 2, 3, or whatever. And over time, if you don't use this, then I would encourage you to use it on paper to get used to it. Over time, you become more flexible with it, and you can actually do this mentally. And it's really a nice way to manage your day. So A would be highest importance, B would be medium, and C would be a low priority, low importance level. Now personally, I use prioritization as a sort of a release valve for stress and tension. In my head mentally, I will say, okay, I've got these list of things, and these 3 or 4 things are the most important. But let's say I get delayed in traffic, or something takes longer than I expected it to, or something went awry. About that point in time, when I'm starting to feel really stressed about it, I will say, okay, well, this thing can change priorities, or it can be moved off my list, or I can call someone and delegate it to somebody else. So it's really kind of a release valve. So the semantics of this is use the ABC system. Devote 30 to 40% of your day to high priority items, 25 to 30% to B priorities, and 30 to C priorities. And the reason for that is you want to place high, medium, and low priorities within one day, and that allows you to stay ahead of your schedule, because if you don't do that, you end up filling your day with A priorities, and then there's no give. The other thing is to place the most important tasks, or the A tasks, during a time of greater energy. But don't cram them all together. You want to add in those all-important restoration breaks. So some people have greater energy in the morning. Some people have greater energy in the early evening. Some people that I've talked to have their energy later at night. So that may be something. You may think that you have to follow, our cultural norm of being the most productive in the morning, but that may not actually work for you. So take the time to see when is my energy the best. It's important with prioritization to be realistic. And sometimes that's the hardest thing for us to do, is to say, is it really super important for me to have the laundry done today? Or can I move the laundry to tomorrow? Or, oh, nope, I haven't done laundry in 5 days and no one has anything to wear. So yes, it is a high priority. Really make time to question yourself about your priorities. What will happen if this is not a high priority really? And then I encourage you to get reality checks for yourself. Asking a spouse or a very good friend or a colleague to help you with reality checks can really help you. There are many times I will come home and I will be all upset about something that I need to get done, and my husband will look at me and go, really? I just didn't think it was that important. And then you go, oh, well, maybe it isn't. So you can make that shift. So here are some things that can help you with prioritization. Learning to delegate. Making sure that you can give away some of those chores that you need to do. And sometimes we think that we have to do something, and we really don't. And an example of that would be maybe ironing your work shirts, as something that you can give over to the dry cleaners. Or grocery shopping comes to mind. People who are foodies and who love to cook love to grocery shop. They like to have the hands-on experience of finding their food and seeing what's new in the grocery store, and that's cool. And if that's energizing and of particular interest, then you should do that. It should be a high priority. Others, they can take or leave grocery shopping. And so you don't have to. There are many different ways to delegate that responsibility. You can delegate it to another family member. You can call up, in some cities, you can call up the grocery store and order your groceries and have them delivered. Or you can order them and you can go to the store and they'll load them into the car for you. So looking at things like that. Dropping some tasks from the day and moving them to another day might be helpful in being flexible with your priorities. And then leave some time open and blank. Often we will fill our day completely to the brim, And when we don't, when we have some time that's open and blank, maybe say toward the end of the day or whatever, it's a delicious thing to come home maybe and say, you know, I really don't have anything on tap. How do I feel? Do I want to sit down with that book I wanted to start? Or maybe this would be a good time to exercise. Or maybe I just want to go and sit down and listen to some really good music. Or talk with my children. It's a good time to just relax and fill in the things that you might want to do. And that helps us put our hobbies and our interests back into the picture. And then eliminate unnecessary tasks. Things like folding sheets in a particular way, or having the laundry stored downstairs and instead of another place, or you can even eliminate cutting foods up by buying pre-cut foods, things like that. So now we'll go into positioning. How you position your body to perform a task really matters because it determines how much energy you will use to do that task. And this is where learning about ergonomic skills is really important. So if that's something that you would like to know more about, I would encourage you to find an occupational therapist that you can sit down with and talk to about ergonomics. It's a huge energy drain if we are positioned poorly to do things. And there are some standards, such as sitting versus standing. It always takes less energy to sit than it does to stand. So changing it around and sitting while you take a shower or sitting while you groom can use less energy and give you more energy for later in the day. Pushing versus pulling. Working close to your body instead of out at arm's length. An example on that would be if you hold a gallon of milk close to your body, the weight translated down through your spine is the 2 pounds or so that it actually weighs. If you hold it out at arm's length in front of you, it more than triples in its weight, and your body has to work much harder just to hold that same gallon of milk. So keeping that in mind. And using good posture instead of slouching is helpful to us. So positioning can take up two things. It can be our environment and our body position. So in the environment, you want to make sure that you're organizing your task spaces. Organize your kitchen, your bathroom, your desk, laundry room, closet, linen, workspace, anywhere that you spend any amount of time, and make sure that it is well organized so that you're not wasting energy there. Take the time to say, hey, I could really revamp this, or I could move something from here to there and it would be much easier for me. Advocate for yourself to do that. Avoid excessive reaching, either up or down. That requires energy. Keep frequently used items somewhere between the hip and shoulder area so that addresses the excessive reaching. It's important to make sure that your task area is at the right height. And my rule of thumb is that just below or at the belly button level is a good height for you to work at when you're either standing or seated. Use a reacher for reaching. Use a rolling cart to transport laundry or cleaning supplies or things that you have to move through your house or workplace from room to room. Use gravity as much as possible. If you can kick the laundry down the stairs, excellent. And keep objects easily visible. I'm thinking about cabinets and pantries and drawers and shelves. How many of us have pawed through the pantry looking for the box of mac and cheese, and you're wasting energy when you're doing that. So again, it's a small energy savings add up. So let's look at body position. Using good body mechanics will help you save energy. Keep objects close to your body. Avoid twisting. Push rather than pull. And we all have heard this one, use your leg muscles to lift. Another is to slide objects on the counter rather than lift them. So you may have to rearrange your counter space in the kitchen so that you can slide things along. And this is a big one. Sit whenever possible, because remember, standing requires more energy. So sit when possible. on a chair or stool in your kitchen, in your bedroom when you're dressing, on a chair in the bathroom or the shower. Sitting to do things that you normally do when standing, again, not to go over that yet again, but it's really very helpful. So positioning, again, listen to your body. If you're keyboarding along and at 25 minutes your neck is so tight you can barely move it and your fingers are getting stiff, it's time to take like maybe a 5-minute restoration break and maybe stretch, move, breathe deeply. It's time to alleviate those stress points that we all get and hot spots. So change your position. Use relaxation techniques. Get a massage or sign yourself up for regular massage to keep those stress points and hot spots from getting really painful. Exercise, again, is a great, great way to alleviate hot spots and stress points and physical discomfort. And stretching, of course, is as well. Take the time to become educated in good posture and learn to maintain it. When we slouch, we pinch our diaphragm, and it makes it difficult to draw a deep breath. And our body has to work much harder to hold our head in position and to keep us upright. So having good posture really does translate into more energy. So in summary, so that we have some time for questions, fatigue is like an amoeba. It has this sort of amorphous blobby arms, and it has many different causes and different ways of manifesting itself. But the good news is that you can use multiple tools and multiple ways of mentally and physically attacking it to manage it. So keep things simple. Keep your life simple. Keep your environment simple and organized. But more importantly, listen to your body. Take the time to learn what your body is telling you and act upon, engage and empower your body to make positive changes and to take the rest breaks or adjust your position accordingly so that those small changes will add up to bigger energy dividends for you. The use of the 3 Ps is a great way to start that process. But I mostly encourage you to make a holistic commitment to managing fatigue and looking at it through a multifaceted lens of different ways and strategies, many ways to manage your daily fatigue. That brings us to the end of what I have that's formally written down. Thank you very much for your time, and I can begin to take some questions.
Great. Thanks, Juliann. That was fabulous. We actually have a lot of good questions, so we'll try to get through as many as we can and also be aware of people's time.
Okay.
So the first question is, I work 40 hours Monday through Friday, so how do I pace when I use the weekends to recover?
Very good question. And the answer to that really comes from that all the little steps that you take add up. So when you take the restoration breaks periodically throughout the day, like almost once an hour, by the end of the 8-hour workday, there should be a little more energy left for you. And again, looking at that and seeing how much can you possibly delegate? How much can you possibly give away? What are the most important priorities that you have to do? Keep those and delegate or throw away the rest so that you are saving energy, so that you have more energy for Saturday and Sunday. And it may well be worth asking, if your work is a flexible place, if working from home a half a day a week is helpful, because then you have a little more room to seat yourself in a different way or to lay down while you're working or something. Sometimes that's a nice way to address that. But really, I would encourage that person to look at their ergonomics. Are they wasting energy at their workplace? Is there any way they can shore up their body ergonomics so that they aren't wasting any energy or as little as possible? Those kinds of things.
That's great. You actually answered a couple of questions in that answer. So that was great. We had a couple about fatigue at work, so that's good. And the next question is a good plug for fellow occupational therapists. It asks, I get too tired and overwhelmed by scheduling everything, so is there someone that can help out with that?
Okay. Yes, and let me ask a question about, so they're tired in creating the schedule, is that right?
Right, and they just wanted help with kind of just everything you've been talking about.
Ah, yes. Yes, an occupational therapist is very good at that. Yeah, what we've talked about is really big. It's a lot of changes to be made. So I guess that I would recommend that's where I think about the strengths and the weaknesses. When you look at a presentation like this, and there's like all this stuff, and I've prattled on for 45 minutes solid about do this, do that, da 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 da, it's like, whoa, where do I start? So start with analyzing what are you best at doing, and say those are my strengths, and here are the areas where I really don't know enough, or I feel like I need more information, or I feel like I need some help. But when I sit down one-on-one with people, we sit down and I have them go through their schedule. I have them create their schedule right there in front of me. And then I will jump in and I will say, well, have you considered this? Or let's problem solve that. Or you just pick it apart piece by piece. And the OT can give you really concrete examples for what could be best for you as an individual. So does that answer that question?
I think so. That's great.
Okay.
Thank you. The next one, when you were talking about pacing, you used the term sprinkle your day with low priority tasks.
Yes.
And we just have a question on what exactly that means.
Okay. So we talked about having the time of your greater energy being the time when you do your most important tasks. So the things that are the most important for you to do. So whether that is exercising or your work tasks or spending time with your family, those are the things that you really want to make sure you do that day. So you put those things in the time when you have the greatest energy. And then you would have also on your schedule maybe doing laundry or ironing or going grocery shopping or taking the dog for a walk or calling an old friend. Those are priorities that if you do your higher priorities and you go, you know what, I'm pooped. I'm totally wiped out. I don't have any more energy for today. The laundry or the grocery shopping or calling the old friend, those things can slip away to another day. But what's more is those things may or may not require more energy than the high priority things. And so if you do a high priority thing and then a low priority thing, they may balance out so that you're not using as much energy. So there's really two ways to think about that. But the real reason for sprinkling your day with low priorities is that you can move them if you need to.
Great. Thanks, Juliann. The next question asks for any suggestions on how to explain MS fatigue to people so they understand it's not just being tired.
Ah, good question. You can tell them that your body is working 10, 20, maybe 50 times harder than their body is just to do the same things. That the lassitude that we talked about at the beginning of the hour is real. I mean, your body is literally working much harder to send nervous system messages through your body. And so literally it's like it's like somebody put a little tap in you and drained out all the energy. And, unless someone has experienced that, it is very challenging to get them to really understand it. Some people will use energy banking money, like money banking, and sometimes that's concrete enough for other people to get. So they would say, you know what, I had $100 in my energy bank account this morning, and now I'm down to zero. I have none. There's nothing left. Sometimes using that kind of language can be helpful.
Great. We have time for just a couple more questions. Is there a difference between fatigue and the different types of MS?
Well, not that I'm particularly aware of. fatigue seems to be a bit capricious with MS. So some people who may have what would be to the naked eye a mild case of MS can really battle significant and debilitating fatigue. And someone who looks like to the naked eye that they should be just as tired as they could be don't have a lot of issues with fatigue. So between types of MS, it's a variant as it is amongst individuals. So not that I'm aware of.
Great. Thanks. There were a couple of those questions.
Okay.
The next one, I'm going to combine a couple of questions. There are two people that are in college, and they're both just worried about their fatigue level with the stressors that come with that. And if you have any suggestions for those people.
Yes, definitely. I would say first and foremost that you are your own greatest advocate. And you alone are the only person who knows how much energy you have in your body at any given time. And so to be a very strong advocate for yourself and say, you know what, I can do that activity, or no, I need to take a bye on that one and I'll get back with you another time. It's really, college is an awesome time, and it's important to be able to enjoy many aspects of it. So if you missed out on something that you took a bye on, make sure that you have a chance to revisit it when you have more energy. So shuffling your priorities around. When it comes to dealing with stress and anxiety, because we have deadlines and professors that have expectations of us, that's a good time to employ the mental relaxation and mental strategies, whether that is visualization exercises or deep breathing or meditation or going to a yoga class or whatever strategy. If you sit down and read a book, listen to good music, all of those things, you know, each person is an individual, but be sure to pepper your day strongly with things that allow you to drain out that mental worry, because that causes us to use energy just the same as walking 10 blocks down the street. It can drain energy that much.
Great. And the last question is particularly relevant in the hot summer that we've had. Do you have any ideas for the summer heat fatigue?
Mm-hmm. Yes. There are, the National Society has really good resources on cooling vests. And that's a vest that you literally wear. Some of them can be worn under your clothes. Some of them you wear over your clothes. And it just keeps your body core cooler. And when you have those triple-digit days and high humidity, it's just unrelenting, it's really important to keep your core body temperature cool. I would say a wet cloth, you know, tied like a do-rag or something around your head can be helpful. And short of not having the resources for, say, a cooling vest, you can get like a fishing vest and get those ice packs that are like the gel packs and put those in the pockets and then put your clothes on over that or however it works best for the individual. But keeping that core body temperature cool is good. Hydration is huge there. Making sure that your body is well hydrated helps you manage heat much better.
Great. Thank you so much, Juliann. That was a great presentation and lots of great questions and answers.
Yes, thank you.
And do you have any closing remarks for us?
No, I don't really.
Okay, great. Yeah, there's a lot of information.
Yeah.
So the next Live Fully Live Well webinar is on September 22nd, and it's at 7 p.m. and 9 p.m. Eastern. And the topic is recreational activities and travel with Linda Walls, an occupational therapist and CanDo MS program consultant. You can register for this webinar on CanDo MS website, mscando.org. And as soon as this presentation is over, you will see a survey appear on your computer screen. So just please take a moment to complete the survey and help us to continue to improve our webinars. And we value your feedback and input. So thanks again. And this program is made possible by MS Active Source, which is sponsored by Biogen IDEC and Elan Pharmaceuticals. Have a great night.